So I wrote something recently about the Kriyas, or the motives of the creation. Now, Brahma and Vishnu were endowed by the blessings of Rudra and Mahesh. So Rudra and Mahesh are actually two different beings, if you want to understand right now. That it kind of exist as Shivas. So Shivas are, it's kind of like Krishnas, right? Arjuna was also considered a Krishna at some point in Earth. He was considered to be one of the Krishnas. But then there's ultimately the Krishna, right? So there's also the origin of where they come from. So Shiva, Sadashiva, is the one that presented the linga to dispel the ignorance of Vishnu and Brahma when they were fighting over who's in charge, who's higher and more advanced. And then he came there and dispelled their ignorance and saying, you don't have this kriya of concealment, nor do you have the kriya of destruction. You're not actually allowed to destroy, right? That's the job of Rudra. Rudra would be or Sadashiva, the one that destroys everything at the end of a day or something like that, right? And then there's also destruction after a breath, right? So this is how it is. But basically, what I've also understood is why does Brahma and Vishnu don't have this? Because they're running the material worlds. If they had grace, if they had constant kindness, they would just be coming here all the time and just rectifying our mistakes. And it would be good for certain people that are good, but at the same rate, those who are bad would be getting off a little too easy, and later on they would find out what they've been finding out in the universe over the millenniums, that these beings turn into horrific demons that can't be stopped even eventually. They have to call in, the celestial abodes above us, out of the Mahatattva to come in and stop them. That's how, disastrous some of these demons get. And we even see that in this world. Some of these people, they do so many bad things, but they never get stopped. They don't get out of office even. So we have an idea what that is. So that's the idea. That the reason why they start off like this, Brahma and Vishnu, is because they have the kriyas of creation and preservation, right? But not the kriya of destruction, concealment, and grace. And lastly, Shiva says, grace I only have. So that's why we chant Shiva's name, Om Shara Shiva, Om Shiraya Namah. And he explains that. He says, if you keep chanting my name, though, I can grant these to you. So it's not like your position is there forever. You can actually attain a higher position. You don't have to remain that. And actually, the body of Brahma, eventually it ends, we understand. He has to accept a new body after a very long time. So these positions they give him to maintain the material world. You understand? That's why they don't come with grace. That's the understanding that I have now, arrived at. That's why we're not giving them with grace, because then they would just come here rectifying everything. Brahma would just come and say, hey, you're doing this wrong. And how would people learn naturally? If you baby everybody into a process and they don't have, and then you won't be able to find out also who later on is going to be mischievous, who's going to turn into a giant demon that is like, that can't be stopped. So that also goes for this world. You got to be careful on who you're electing into office, for instance. That's a really serious thing these days. But I just want to share that and clarify that point. That it's not that I'm trying to put down I'm just reading the Sastra, first of all. And secondly, it has pertinence, and it has a conclusion. Anugraha, grace, is something that Krishna's Nam and Shiva's Nam holds for everybody, right? But we have to go to them for it. And they give us some grace, something to keep us going or merit us for the next, whatever it is. You understand? But Brahma and Vishnu, you can ask them for grace directly, but you have to become their devotee, etc. You got to follow their rules. So it comes with stipulation. It's not embedded in the creation. That's the understanding. Because if it was, as I said, how would they be able to determine who is who? They might bring somebody into the spiritual world, and that person turns out to be babied the whole time and following rules only when they had to. And now here they are destroying everything. And that has been the case in the spiritual worlds. They had one demon, Bundasur. They couldn't stop him because he did tapasya for so long that he was, he had pretty much everything he wanted. All right? So there it is.